Hi everybody, welcome to the Bolt Hole Biker. In a previous video that I did, I mentioned that my Duke 790 can be a little bit snatchy down at the low end of the rev range. Just where it's very lean fueled, I think, to meet the Euro 4 and Euro 5 regulations. And somebody commented on that video, why don't I try a booster plug? They'd put one on and it transformed their 790. So I thought I'd take the advice. I have read up about these, so I'm aware of them, but I had considered putting one on before, but I wasn't 100% sure. So I'm going to give it a go anyway. So I've bought a booster plug. Stick with me. I'll show you how to install it, and then we'll do a couple of tests and see if it makes any difference. Due to environmental and emissions regulations, bike manufacturers are forced to make modern engines run very lean in order to still get performance whilst meeting those regulations. But there is more performance to be had from these bikes, which is why there's a market for things like power commanders and booster plugs. So what is the booster plug? Well, it's a small device, plug and play, that plugs directly into your bike's wiring harness between the air intake sensor and the ECU. And what it does is it effectively tricks the ECU into thinking that the ambient air temperature is lower than it actually is by adding some resistance to the air intake temperature sensor. And this then prompts the ECU to enrichen the mixture of fuel and air that it injects into the engine by around about 6%, which then improves the performance of the bike. So effectively, it enables the bike to run at its true potential. Booster plug basically claim that they're bringing the bike to the performance level that the manufacturers would have liked it to have been had they not been restricted by having to meet emissions regulations. Fitting a booster plug is supposed to improve and soften the throttle response when rolling on and off the throttle, improve acceleration, and remove the jerky low speed running that you get with lean burn engines. Okay, so that's the booster plug fitted. Very, very easy. Literally just plug and play. Seat off. Back seat on, if I remember that. Let's go and give it a spin. See if it's made any difference. Hopefully it has.
Oh, that does sound slightly different actually. Right, I'm in street mode. Right, okay, I'm in first gear now. My hand is not even on the clutch. Less than 1500 RPM. I'm on about maybe 1400 RPM. I don't even have my hand on the throttle, and I go to pull away and that is as smooth as anything. That's quite remarkable. And what I am noticing is that when I come off the throttle, it's very smooth as well. which it wasn't before. This is where it was jerky before, sort of between 1 and 2,000. I'm in second gear now, so if I was in traffic, you know, rolling along, off and on the throttle, off and on the throttle, it would have been a bit jerky. I'm not touching the clutch here now. I would have been fettling that clutch before. So it really has smoothed out the fueling down at that lower end. So I'm in second gear now. I'm not touching the throttle. I'm not touching the clutch. That's just tickling along on idle. It's at, what's that? Maybe 1400 RPM. Not touching anything. You couldn't do that before. And when I'm now going to just see, that would have jerked before. Very good. Alright, I'm going to try it down. I'm in third gear. Alright, that's slightly jerky, but I am only on about 13. Oh, look, 1300 RPM, third gear, 16 miles an hour. Yeah, okay. And I'm also interested to see what it's going to be like in the sort of upper end of the rev range. Let's see how this idles now. So I'm going to open it up a little bit more down this road. We're out of the 30 zone now. Alright, actually I think this might still be 30, but we'll be out of it in a second.
As you can probably tell by the absence of a beard, I'm filming this on a different day to when I actually fitted the booster plug. The reason for that is that when I first took it out, I couldn't really make my mind up about it actually. So I've run a load of tests on it over the last few days. I've taken it back off of the bike again and ridden the bike, then put it back on, ridden the bike. I've done slow speed tests, higher speed tests where I'm sort of, you know, caning it a little bit. So I've got a much better idea now of what I think of the booster plug. So I can pass that on to you. Fundamentally, my conclusion is this: that it's fantastic. It does exactly what it says on the tin. But the change that you get is quite subtle, or it has been on this bike anyway, and in my experience of it. And I think I was possibly expecting something a bit more dramatic, and I've had to kind of make a bit of an adjustment in my head to accommodate that and make myself realise that it's my expectations that were wrong, not the performance of the booster plug, because it does do. I mean, it's so clever. It really does do exactly what it's meant to do. And that's most noticeable down at the at slow speeds at the low end of the rev range, which is exactly what I wanted it to do for this bike. So I've got no complaints. I'm very happy that I've put the booster plug on, and I won't be taking it off. It's great. In fact, I've now decided that I'm going to try a new air filter as well, just to see if I can squeeze the optimum performance out of the 790 without going down the route of decatting it and, you know, straight through pipe and power commander and dyno tests and all that sort of stuff. So at low speeds, it's quite remarkable how it really softens off the jerkiness that you get down at the really sort of low end of the rev range, where you haven't got the throttle twisted much, so it's not getting enough fuel, and it's running very, very lean and is a bit jerky, because when you do finally get on the throttle, it's getting all the fuel all at once, and it kind of jumps, and then when you come off it kind of loses the fuel all at once, and it jerks back down again. I mean, it was never a massive problem with this bike, but it was just, I was aware of it, and I had to just sort of accommodate that with the throttle. Well, that's gone now. Just gone. It's unbelievable, really. Now, as you'll see on some of the footage that I've shot, you can be down at basically at idling and just sort of trundling along at next to no miles an hour at all. Even in a higher gear, you know, you can be in first gear, second gear, third gear. I didn't try it any higher than that because why would you? But you could be down at very, very low speeds, and then you can just tease the throttle. You don't have to sort of, you know, give it much, and it will just gradually accelerate away, which is lovely. And when you come off the throttle, it just gradually comes back down again. It doesn't jerk back down. So it solved that problem. That's what I wanted it for. Yay! But where I've been doing more of the testing is, because I read up about the booster plug on their website and how it works, and they claim to make an increase in performance throughout the acceleration, because basically the sensor on the front is measuring the actual temperature, and then the booster plug is basically telling the ECU that it is 20 degrees lower than what it is. So therefore the ECU thinks that it has to put a little bit more fuel in to the bike in order to get the performance that it requires. So the engine's not only getting that slight 6% increase in fuel down at the low end of the rev range, as you accelerate, it's getting that extra bit of fuel right the way throughout your acceleration. So effectively, that extra bit of fuel is giving you a slightly bigger bang, which means that the piston's pushing that slight bit harder, which means that you spin up faster. So effectively, you're getting more acceleration. You're accelerating that little bit faster. And I have done some comparison. You can just hear it. It's very subtle, but you can just hear it on the footage that I've taken. But it's not as pronounced on the footage as it actually is in real life. I can hear it much more, that the engine note changes between having the booster plug on and not having it on. And you really do get better acceleration, and it's also got a slightly richer sound to it as well. The exhaust note is just that little bit more resonant, where you're getting the slightly bigger bang in the engine. And for a plug-in device that costs 130 quid and takes less than 10 minutes to fit, it's it is quite remarkable, actually. It is a really, really good bit of kit. But don't expect it to turn your 790 into a V4 Panigale. It's not. It definitely makes a difference, and you can definitely feel the difference, and you're getting an improved performance out of your bike. But it isn't a massive difference that sort of, you know, I think what I was expecting was possibly more of a difference. But that was my problem, not the booster plugs. conclusion on the booster plug is that it is a fantastic bit of kit for £130 to get an improved performance from the Duke 790. I don't know what it's like on other bikes, but I would imagine that you get the same the same sort of increase in performance. Downsides, yes. One in particular, the Duke 790's quite a lively bike anyway, as I'm sure you know, and it likes being in the upper end of the rev range, and at motorway speeds I very rarely come out of 5th gear and go up to 6th, because it's just 6th gear on this bike is almost unnecessary unless you're going to be breaking the law. I mean, if you're over in Germany on the Autobahn, brilliant, 6th gear, but it's almost an unnecessary gear on this bike, because you need to be going too fast for it to be usable. Otherwise it's a little bit lumpy, because you can be doing motorway speeds on this bike and you're at about 5,000 RPM. There's just no need to go into 6th. So the booster plug has actually made that even worse. It just runs a little bit too rich at that speed. But that's my only sort of negative observation, really. Other than that, really good. For £130, there's no other way that you can get an increase in performance like that.